In a region plagued by conflict and a history of displacement, a recent Israeli intelligence report has sparked new concerns. This concept paper from the Israeli Intelligence Ministry, dated in the aftermath of the current devastating conflict, explores some radical options for dealing with Gaza. In this story, we try and take a deep dive into the details of this controversial plan, and it's why not just the Gazans, but also the wider Arab world that is up in arms about it. And most importantly, if this were to be implemented, then the potential ripple effects it could have even among supporters of Israel worldwide. The plan tentatively involves shifting the entire Gazan population, that's more than 2 million people, into the Sinai desert in Egypt. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office has downplayed this report. Instead, they are emphasizing that this was just a concept paper. But this document has deepened long-standing Egyptian fears. It's also revived traumatic memories for the Palestinians. So much so, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas's spokesperson, Nabil Abu Rudineh, has declared that they are against any transfer to any place in any form or fashion, and that the Palestinians would consider this a red line and will not be allowed to be crossed. The report's suggestions have reignited the painful memories of 1948, when hundreds of thousands of Palestinians had to flee their homes during the creation of the modern State of Israel. It is a wound that many Palestinians carry up until this very day. This document, which is dated 13th of October, came in the wake of the Hamas attack, which has killed over 1,400 people in southern Israel, and as a consequence, there is now a devastating war in Gaza. This document offered three alternatives for changing the situation in Gaza. One option standing out as the most desirable as far as Israel's security apparatus is concerned. The document also proposes relocating Gaza's entire civilian population, first to tent cities in northern Sinai, and then eventually the creation of more permanent cities and a humanitarian corridor between what is current-day Gaza and present-day Egypt. A security zone within Israel will prevent these displaced Palestinians from returning back to Gaza, some kind of a buffer or a no man's land, if you will. Egypt, in fact, once upon a time used to rule over Gaza in the period between 1948, after the creation of Israel, up until 1967, when the first major Arab-Israeli war happened. But that changed after the 1967 war, when Israel annexed Gaza from Egypt and also managed to annex parts of the West Bank from Jordan. Now Egypt fears that Israel intends to force a permanent expulsion of all Palestinians onto their territory, which could jeopardize the 1979 peace treaty between Cairo and Tel Aviv. Israeli experts warn that this draft proposal could also put a severe strain on Israel-Egypt ties. Remember, that is a vital partnership in this region. It keeps the Rafah crossing open in the south, through which Gaza used to get much of its water and electricity, at least up until this conflict began. Right now, there is an entire blockade of essential supplies into and out of Gaza. This report, this intelligence document, also suggests that countries like Egypt and Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, even the United Arab Emirates could financially support this plan or even take up some of these uprooted Gazans as refugees. Canada's lenient immigration policies also make it a potential resettlement destination for these Palestinians. The proposal acknowledges potential complications which concern international legitimacy. But the document also argues that evacuating the population could lead to fewer civilian casualties than if there were to be a full-blown conflict, as is the case right now. The Israeli government has distanced itself from this report, from this intelligence document that's been leaked. They are clarifying that this is not binding on the Israeli war cabinet or on the Israeli parliament, and it has not even been seriously discussed within security circles in Israel. The focus of the current operation remains squarely on dismantling Hamas's capabilities. Now, interestingly, the report also dismisses two other options, one of which is reinstating the West Bank-based Palestinian Authority, and the other is to support a local regime as ineffective in deterring these attacks on Israel. The reinstatement of the Palestinian Authority, of course, would be seen as a risky move, given the violent history between Israel and PA, and also the kind of dominance that Hamas has had in Gaza over the last decade and a half. Also, Mahmoud Abbas's party is highly unpopular in Gaza because of multiple corruption allegations of cutting deals with Israel. All of this has given it a bad name. Though ordinary Gazans have no love lost for the Hamas, it is still seen as the only legitimate voice of the Gazan people. Uprooting Hamas would be seen, in some quarters certainly, as hypocritical, in fact, in the eyes of most Palestinians. The implications of this concept paper are profound and they're far-reaching. It affects not just Israelis and Palestinians, but also neighboring countries in the Arab world and perhaps even global stability. As the region grapples with the aftermath of this conflict and the complex challenges of how to coexist, something that has persistently been the bane of this region for the last 75 years, this report serves as a stark reminder of the deep-rooted tensions between Israelis and Palestinians, and also perhaps therein the urgent need for a lasting, permanent solution. It is also a severe test of not just Israel and its intentions, but also that of Palestinians' Arab neighbors. What will come to pass, whether Israel will be able to completely move out more than 2 million people, and whether or not those people will be accepted by other countries, in this case Egypt, or even other neighboring countries, that is still an open question.